Welcome to Creative Conversations. I'm Roger Humphrey. Christopher Showerman and I have been friends for many years. He's a Hollywood actor, producer, and writer, an all-around nice guy. In this episode, we talk about the business of Hollywood, including the recent strikes. Please join us as we pull back the curtain a little bit and take a quick peek. But before we do that, please hit the subscribe or follow button. It's a free and easy thing to do, and it helps out the channel a lot. Thanks. And we're welcoming Christopher Showerman to the program. Chris, thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Raj, it's an honor. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's always a treat. It's always a treat. So, lots to talk about. Lots to talk about. Life in Los Angeles, of course, and such. So you guys just came off a strike a few months ago.
Yeah, that was harrowing. It's the whole city kind of shut down for uh the short term was about 4 months, and then the long term effects are still echoing throughout the industry. We haven't really come back yet.
So, well, I've noticed on my end as a consumer, just watching television programs, that it took them till February to start bringing new shows up, and they put up about 3 shows and it went right into reruns again, and bringing new ones up again in April. So I'm assuming that production in general is perhaps slower, kind of messes up the machinery a little bit.
It definitely does, and I think the producers have some cold feet a little bit because the IATSE contract is up next, and that's all of the people that work behind the camera,
Ah,
and they're a very powerful group together. So I have a feeling that the producers are probably holding off a little bit because we're definitely not back 100% yet, and holding off until they negotiate that contract as well.
gotcha. So, so we've got you. The strike is over and things are starting to get back to normal somewhat, I'm guessing.
Mhm.
So, and I've noticed you've been involved in a couple of projects since the strike.
Yeah, I have. I'm not doing anything in front of the camera at the moment, but I'm doing some live gigs. We just had a St. Patrick's Day live musical review show, which was hilarious and fun. But I'm in a play right now. It's a modernized, musicalized, Americanized version of Chekhov's The Seagull,
Oh, wow.
called Seagulls. Yeah. Yeah, so that's very different. It's very fun, and not for everyone, but it's definitely a unique piece to get to work on.
Well, it was when you agreed to do the show. That was one of my first questions was theater because I knew that that was something you were involved in here in Michigan when you were living here.
Yes.
And as long as I've known you, that's always had kind of a soft spot in your heart. There's always been a place for it there, and so I wondered. I realized that LA is a movie and television town, and so I didn't know if there was any kind of a theatrical scene at all. So that was going to be a question. And then
Fantastic.
yesterday there was the Facebook page or a Facebook thing that showed the program from from the play that you're in. I thought, well, okay, that leads right into that, doesn't it?
It's perfect.
So is there an active theater scene there?
Yeah, there's definitely, I mean, it's not like it would be in New York or maybe even in Chicago, but there's definitely a scene. It used to be that theater, you'd see a lot of bad theater in LA. Not knocking LA, but the truth was people would just do theater in hopes of being seen by a casting director. So they weren't really working as a collaboration or a team. It's like, oh, I'm gonna do my role as a look at me showcase, and and that's not really how theater works. So uh, yeah, I feel like especially lately, I feel like it's gotten more dedicated. The theater scene has gotten a little bit more dedicated and a little more serious, which is cool. And there's a lot of theater happening, a ton of theater happening in town. The complex where we're doing our show, there's three shows going on at any given moment. Um,
Wow.
yeah, fascinating because you're walking around backstage behind the wings and you're bumping into people from other shows and working your way around. So it's exciting. It's very fun.
It sounds like it. So, you getting audiences for these programs then?
Yeah, audiences, they're out there, and I think people are gun shy about getting stuck in a 2 hour production of something they're not sure they're gonna like, and I totally understand that. I don't like going to a movie and finding out that I'm trapped there for 2 hours and I can't get out. That's why I think the star model of making movies, although we all sort of rail against it, still works because we know that if you're going to see a Tom Cruise movie, you kind of have an idea what you're going to get. It's like going to McDonald's. It's like, well, it might not be the best meal you've ever had, but you know it's going to be good enough. You kind of know what to expect.
Right.
And whereas if you're going to see somebody new in a movie or a production which you have no idea, you might not even know any of the performers, and might not know the material. And even if you do know the material, you don't know how the performers are going to handle it. So it's a crapshoot. So it's asking a lot of audiences to come and sit with you for 2.5 hours of their precious time. So
Real act of faith. So,
a real act of faith.
so do the uh, do the newspapers cover them at all? Do you get any kind of reviews out there? You let people know that you're doing it and whether or not it's any good.
Yeah, the newspapers do. If you have a longer run, the newspapers will come out. Of course, if you're just up for a weekend, there's no sense in a reviewer coming out to review it
Sure.
because by the time the review comes out, the show's over.
Right.
But with a longer run, they'll come out and write something up about it. I don't know if the production I'm currently in has been reviewed or not. I know they were talking about it, and then that was the last I heard.
Well, with the SAG-AFTRA strike going on, did that affect the theater business at all?
Um, if anything, it probably made it more robust out here because the theater union is equity, so it's a separate union. So that's the one place where actors could still work. So it probably, people who might otherwise have been busy doing movie or TV productions had the time to commit to a live production. Um, I know I stayed busy doing some of that during the strike as well, and even now that the strike is over, I get these opportunities as well. And like you said, I love it. I love the theater. I love live theater. Love the instantaneous reaction and feedback that you get when you're there. So, yeah, I do think the strikes probably affected it in a positive way, surprisingly, because then more people are available.
So, are you still writing? I know you used to write quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm writing. I write more music probably than I
Oh,
do. I've written a few screenplays and I haven't done any of that in a while. Um, I was writing a book during the pandemic and finished a first draft of it, and then it went into the drawer like so many first drafts do, and will probably never come out again.
yeah. I have recording projects that are buried deep into my computer that will never see the light of day.
Right, I know.
I don't.
I always I always console myself going, yeah, well, some archaeologist will dig this stuff up and find how brilliant it is, years after I'm gone. Which God knows, yes, but it gets me through the day.
I remember watching an interview with Paul McCartney a couple of years ago, and the interviewer asked him if he'd ever written a bad song, and he said, "Oh God, yes, I write them all the time." And so the guy says, "Well, play something. He says, play, what would a bad Paul McCartney song sound like? He says, can you play one? And he went, no.
Exactly.
No, no.
Kind
and I,
kind
and
of, yeah, it
I,
chips away at the Paul McCartney brand if you're putting all your bets on it.
but I just, and it was such an immediate and final, I mean, there was no argument. No. It was-
Yeah,
but I think anybody who's ever created understands that
yeah.
you write something good and you're proud of it, and you're prouder still because you know that there's 10 other things that you wrote that were pretty questionable.
Right, right. Well, and that's kind of part of the discipline, isn't it? Because it's nobody is creating their number one stuff all the time, and the discipline is knowing what qualifies as your brand and what doesn't. So what you'd want to put your name on, and then having the discipline to tuck away everything else.
I know that's been the complaint in the music business for God forever since I was a kid. They would say, you've got your whole life to write your first album, and you got 6 months to write the second one. You know,
That's so true.
it's
Yes.
people don't realize. It's just you go in to do your first album, and you've got you may have 100 songs in a drawer somewhere, and you're going to pull 10, and hope with the idea that that's your best work, and then and say, okay, everything's great. They put you on the road, you don't have any time, and you're doing concerts, and you're happy, and they say, okay, now the next album is due in August.
Right, right, exactly. We need more material to feed the machine.
It's like holy mackerel. So,
I know.
so one of the things that's changed and is continuing to change a lot in your business, and I don't pretend to know anything about your business, but one of the things that seems to be changing a lot are streaming services
Oh,
and
yeah.
and direct to digital and I'm seeing a lot of movies, on Hulu and Netflix, Peacock, and I mean, pick a spot, and these movies are out there, and I tripped over about 3 weeks ago. I tripped over a documentary called "The Last Repair Shop," and
Oh,
and I really loved it. I thought, okay, that's really terrific. And I could kind of commiserate a little bit because of all my experience in a music store that actually had repair shops like that, and then to find out, here recently that they won the Oscar for best documentary, I thought, yeah, that's great. but so streaming services. How does that affect your thinking in terms of marketing and what kind of project you're going to do? And
it doesn't affect my thinking in the terms of what kinds of projects I do because I limit that to what kind of projects I'm offered. So, so if it's streaming, I'll take it. Um, but it does kind of affect us. I think culturally, it's changed us a lot. Whereas when you had three networks and that was it, and then a blockbuster or two throughout the summer, then we could have these water cooler discussions about, hey, did you see what happened on Friends or on
right,
The Office
uh-huh.
last month? And we all joke about that because everybody shared the same experience. Now with virtually unlimited content out there and access to all of it all the time, um, I think our we don't have as many shared experiences on that anymore. With the exception of, say, when you say, I just saw The Last Repair Shop, and then that makes me want to go, oh, well, I better go see The Last Repair Shop. So now we can talk about it, and I actively go seek it out. That said, I think streaming is a great thing because it certainly makes everything so much more accessible. And for a period of time, it was almost like we were winning financially as well because you could cut your cable and go to streaming and do it for a couple of bucks, but now that's getting more expensive as well. So we all have to make choices like, well, do I want this streaming service or that, or am I gonna buy it all and spend $300 a month to pay for all these streaming services? So um, from the performer's end, I think I'm willing to do good work, whether it's whether it's on Netflix or YouTube. I'm just eager to, you know, do work.
Well, I know that you have a production company with Clint Morris called Shores Productions, right?
Yes.
Is Shores doing anything at this time?
We don't have like we've had things sort of on hold for a long time. We don't have anything actively in development or production. Um, uh, I think the last thing that we actually put out was Radio America, and that was 8 years ago now. But but
Has it been that
we've
long?
been talking about. Yeah, I know it's been a long
I
time.
remember seeing it.
That's right. Well, you were part of it. I mean, you did some guitar work, I believe,
No,
in that.
no, not on that one. Uh,
Oh, was it Last Cowboy?
yeah.
Between the Sand and the Sky.
Yes.
You did some guitar work on that.
Yes.
That's right.
That's
That's
my
right. That's right.
own, my one and only IMDb entry.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's it. That's
Uh,
it's my work was so good that nobody wanted me again.
well, I'm honored to have had a part in your IMDb existence.
I, I feel like the Bob Euchre of film scores. So, do you know who Bob Euchre was? The ball player.
Bob Uecker.
The ball player. He was became an
No, no.
announcer. Oh, yeah. He
The announcer. Okay,
yeah
that's why I know the name.
yeah
Yeah.
yeah. He was a professional ball player, and uh, and and he used to joke. He said that he was very proud of his career. He said anybody who hits 300 or above can have a 20-year career. But he says if you're only hitting about 125 and you still have a 20-year career, he says that's something to be proud of. So, and he very self-deprecating and funny. But yeah, so that's kind of
Was he the one? Did he have a beer commercial? Was he on a beer commercial where he said, "I must be in the front row"? Was that Bob
yes,
Uecker?
yeah.
Oh gosh, he was
He
hilarious.
was just a very deadpan and absolutely a scream at a Hall of Fame show. Was talking about getting drafted into the uh, baseball, the majors, and he said when they talked to me, he said they first talked to me. He said they were talking about a $5,000 bonus. But he says my old man didn't have that kind of money, so so that's how I feel as a film score or composer.
Right, right.
I talk a good game. So
Uh, you got me convinced.
that's funny. So, well, with the streaming services, we'll come back to that.
Mhm.
With the streaming services, um, we have all of these things out there, and it seems like they're content hungry. Would that be correct in saying that?
They were more content hungry at the beginning. There's still a ton of content being made, and so there are definitely more opportunities than when we were down to three networks and a couple of blockbusters a year. So yes, there's definitely more content, but it also waters it down a little bit. So I feel like there's still just a couple of major productions, and then there's a lot more smaller stuff that has less money, maybe even less production value in it. So, um, uh, yeah, it's I wouldn't say it's necessarily a double-edged sword because it's definitely better for all of us out here. There's more work to be had, but it is a little watered down. It's a little different um, than what it was, in what some might call the golden age of TV. So,
I know that in the music business, they say that with the streaming stuff with Spotify and a variety of other services
yeah,
that the good news is now that anybody can put the music out there. You don't have to go through a third party. The bad news is anybody can put music out there, and so it becomes a situation of it's crowded. It's a crowded field. Trying to find like like me finding this documentary, I had no idea there was any buzz on it at all. I just tripped over it on a Saturday night
Right.
and sit and watch. I thought, oh, this looks interesting, and I just watched it. But so it seems like it would be harder to get buzz, harder to get noticed. Uh,
For
so
sure.
so you can put out a really high quality product and nobody knows.
That is the thing. And that's, what you bring up such a great point too. It's marketing is such a huge part of this. And that's why the big guys will match their production budget with their marketing budget. So if you made $100 million movie, they'll spend $100 million getting in front of eyeballs. I mean, it's that important to them. It's amazing how much money it takes to get people to notice you. Um, so so yeah, somebody like the Last Repair Shop, something more independent and small like that, it's kind of a miracle that we're all talking about it because they didn't have that kind of money. They made a good enough movie that people actually just talked about it for them,
Yeah,
like we're doing
like
now.
we're doing now, right? So yeah, I didn't realize that the marketing budgets were quite that high. I knew they were big, but I didn't realize they were quite that large. So that's a lot of money to spend. Just
Just a ton of money. Yeah.
so you must be you have to you'd have to using your figures of $100 budget and $100 marketing, you'd have to do about 400 just just to kind of break even almost.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the crazy thing. And so, for instance, say when Indiana Jones came out last year, it it didn't do as well as the studios wanted. Um, it did okay though, and it definitely made whatever they spent to make the movie. It definitely made that back. So I thought, well, they're fine then. They're in the black. They weren't because they hadn't paid back their marketing. So it was still upside down even after it made all of its production money back.
Now they have the advantage, of course, of a foreign markets and b going taking it to streaming after the fact.
Absolutely. And that's, I don't know how they quantify the streaming numbers because if that's on a subscription basis, then I guess they just look at how many minutes were streamed on this title as opposed to that one, and then cut the pie up accordingly. But uh, uh, they do have ways of even after the movie's out of theaters to get all that ancillary money, like if they make it available on your airplane when you're, flying from here to there and playing movies, or and on special hotel channels. So they can squeeze more money out of it, but that's more of an accounting question at that point because I don't know how they how they figure that out.
And we don't want to get into that. Ugh.
Definitely don't want to get into Hollywood accounting, that's for sure. Nobody makes a profit in Hollywood accounting.
Everybody loses money. Yeah, I get it. So
That's right.
that's funny. I know that you know who Milana Weintraub is. I think she plays Lily in the AT&T commercials.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay.
Okay, and so there was a while there where they had dropped that character and then they brought it back, and so during that period, she started doing her and another woman started doing comedy bits because she's a very funny person, and so as a matter of fact, I think she started off doing comedy and like not stand up but like sketch comedy in like one of the companies or such. Um, but they were doing they had a YouTube channel and they were doing interviews and and you got two extremely awkward, very pretty but very awkward women trying to interview very big stars. And they had some pretty big names on there, and it was really kind of funny so they were doing like these 10 and 15-minute interviews on YouTube that were quite frankly very funny, and I think that's kind of how she filled in her time. I bring that up because I wonder if something like that was something that you or your friends are doing out there to maybe take a look at that kind of thing, doing short little, doing YouTube shorts or Instagram shorts or something like that.
Well, definitely, I'm not doing the interview thing because my pal Roger is doing it, and he's kind of got the market on that already. So
Yeah,
I'm not going to move in on
hey,
his turf.
listen, I'm up to double digits now.
See, there you go. There's no hope for the rest of us.
That's funny.
Um, yeah, and as far as the YouTube stuff, I during the pandemic, I did my own little YouTube channel thing too. One of my things is fitness, and I love working with people working out. And during the pandemic, with all the gyms closed and all of the gym equipment being so expensive at the time, I started an idea of working out just with a pair of dog leashes. It was called the Path of Leashed Resistance. So every week I would do a video, a 60-second video on a new exercise that you could do with dog leashes. So we did 52. We did a full year of videos
Wow.
for that. Yeah, and we're looking at possibly a partial another season because we've got a whole bunch of new ideas for ways that you can work out with little or no equipment outside without a gym.
That's cool. And I like the outside part too.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I love it.
I, the only way I get out anymore is if I get on my bicycle or if I'm on deck drinking a beer. Those are the only two.
Exactly. That's great.
You,
Well, also, too, it makes a difference. You live in like the most Americana town that I can think of in Michigan. It feels like you just walked into the 1800s when I go to your town. I think it's so pretty.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a nice place to live. It's quiet. I'm literally sitting in a corner bedroom in my house. This is my studio, and I face the corner of the property. I got two streets crossing here, and I don't have any special soundproofing or anything, and I can do this, for half an hour or 40 minutes or whatever, and not worry about being interrupted with traffic or people yelling, it's just it's that quiet here. Some people would go crazy, but I'm old. I like the quiet.
Yeah, no, I love the quiet. I love growing up in rural Michigan, that
Yeah.
that was my jam. Now, like a quarter mile that way is one of the largest freeways in the world. It's the 405 is right there. So I, it's but to be honest, it doesn't. We don't typically hear it, so I don't know how they keep it a little quieter. But it is much more concentrated where I am
Oh
than
yeah,
where.
sure. Yeah, this is rural is probably the really best word for it that I can think of. It's pretty quiet here and pretty laid back, and it's a small town. We only got about 5,200 people here, so I mean I can walk from one side of the town to the other. So the post office is two doors down, and if I have to, and downtown is only a block away, so. Well, downtown. I mean, that's a stretch, but but that's okay. I'm happy with that. I've lived in big cities. I've lived in small cities, and I'm a small town boy. I kind of like it here a lot.
I
So
love that, and everyone along the way knows your name too.
yeah, but usually it's accompanied with an eye roll. Do you know Roger? Oh yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, we know him. It's very funny, very funny. So, well, Chris, I am absolutely going to get out of your hair now, such as it is, and thank you very much for being on the program. I really, really appreciate it.
I always have so much fun. I love seeing you, Roger. I love getting to chat, and back in the day we used to see each other all the time. Most people don't know that we worked a hallway across each other, and so that was what a delightful, special, magical time in my life.
We had a lot of great conversations then as well, didn't we? So
Yeah,
we did.
yeah.
So, well, thank you, Chris. Talk to you later. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, Roger. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for taking the time to hang out with us. By the way, if you or anyone you know plays guitar, there's a bunch of free stuff at rogerhumphrey.com just for you. Stop in, check it out. You don't have to register, you don't have to sign in. I'll never know you were there. In the meantime, I hope you'll come back here real soon to Creative Conversations with Roger Humphrey.